Lake City Council is called to order. And at this time, I'd like to invite all of you to please stand and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The regular agenda is before the council and will need to be approved. I believe there are 2 items that we need to add to the regular agenda, and they are Finance Committee items. So, Dan, those are going to be labeled 7K and 7L, correct?
Correct, that's right.
With those 2 additions, I would entertain a motion to approve the regular agenda.
Motion. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the regular agenda. Discussion. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. The consent agenda is before the council, and all items with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered separately in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience or any member of the council that wishes to either add or remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as printed.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. The minutes of the regular city council meeting held February 14th, 2023 are before the council. Is there anyone in the audience or any members of the council that wish to make any changes to the minutes from the February 14th meeting? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve each of the regular city council meeting held February 14th, 2023. Discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. So it's an honor for me this evening to introduce our first ever and new full-time fire chief, Mike Hansen. And I'm going to have Mike come up and I'm going to swear him in. That way you get a paycheck. So if you would repeat after me, Mike, please raise your right hand. I, Mike Hansen,
I, Mike Hansen,
promise that I will humbly serve
promise that I will humbly serve
all customers
all customers
with an urgent response to their crisis,
with an urgent response to their crisis,
with compassion, sincerity, and concern,
compassion,
sincerity,
sincerity,
and concern, patience, kindness, and respect.
patience, kindness, and respect.
I promise that I will at all times
I promise that I will at all times
conduct myself
conduct myself
in a manner that reflects positively
in a manner that reflects positively
on the fire department and the city of Detroit Lakes.
on the fire department and the city of Detroit.
Finally, I promise to follow
Finally, I promise to follow
the policies of the fire department,
the policies of the fire department,
uphold the laws of our state and nation,
uphold the laws of our state and nation,
and the ordinances of the city of Detroit Lakes,
and the ordinances of the city of Detroit,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
my duties to the best of my abilities.
my duties to the best of my abilities.
So help me God.
So help me God.
You're official. So if you want to just tell the council a little bit about yourself.
Sure, I'll keep it short and sweet. So yeah, I think you guys have probably read the paper. So I grew up in Detroit Lakes, graduated in 2007, moved up to Alaska shortly thereafter. I've been up there, kind of working in EMS and fire service up there for a while, and then saw this opportunity and decided I had to come back and try and help out my local community. And really happy you guys chose me, and happy to help the community, and excited to be here. So thank you guys.
Thanks, Mike. At this time, I'm going to adjourn the regular meeting and call to order a public hearing to receive public comments on the White Clover Beach Road, 8th Street, 11th Avenue, 15th Avenue, and Randolph Road street improvements. So with that, I'm going to call on our Assistant City Engineer. I don't know what your title is, John, but
I'll just take
Close enough?
fill in.
I'll call on John Olson. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. For those of you that don't know me, I'm John Olson. I work closely with John Pratt. in our DL office here, and I do a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff in the city of Detroit Lakes. So honored to be here today, filling in for him. As Mayor mentioned, we have a public hearing for the 2023 street rehab project this evening. I've got a few slides. It looks like they made it up there. Purpose of the hearing, anytime we do an improvement project of this nature and we plan to assess a portion of the project, the improvement hearing is necessary. It's also just a great opportunity to get information out to residents about any properties, hear input, field questions and comments. So I'll run through just a few slides here, kind of hitting on some background of a report we prepared. Existing and proposed improvements, costs and financing, and then I'll turn it back to Mayor to field any questions and comments that anybody may have. This project has been on the city's capital improvement plan for several years. The exact project location and streets, the scope of work was not identified. We were authorized to proceed with a report at the end of 2022. We reviewed Public Works list of streets that they had, evaluated other streets, and made recommendations on the final project extensive scope to the project that we feel was most necessary at this time. That report was presented to the council in February at your last council meeting. Hearing this evening, if it moves forward, we'll be in design the next couple of months, looking at receiving bids in the June timeframe, assessment hearing probably in the July timeframe, and then construction mid to later summer. Oops, I went too far. Okay. So the project does include eight separate street segments, as Mayor mentioned. This slide is really zoomed out and tough to see. White Clover Beach is off South Shore or Shorewood Drive on the west side of Big Detroit. And I'm going to skip down to Burroughs Road. That's on the very southeast corner of Big Detroit, a little subdivision road. That project is a spot repair project. We're just including it with this. It's similar scope of work, but that project is not intended to be assessed. Zooming in to kind of the industrial park area of the city, these are the street sections. Again, they're quite tough to see, but A Street from 15th Avenue to Highland, 11th Avenue from 8th Street to 34, 15th Avenue from 11th to 8th, and then Randolph from Roosevelt to Chris. It's my understanding that this presentation will be online after the meeting, so if some of these slides are hard to see, you should be able to access those. Is that correct? As far as existing conditions, one of the things we always look at before we go into a street rehab is to ensure that the underground utilities don't have needs. If there was aged utilities, we'd have a much larger project, likely a reconstruct, something of that nature. In this situation, we have good PVC pipe. There's useful life remaining in those utilities. As far as the pavement section, this pavement is in poor condition, severe cracking. There's areas of complete failure throughout all of these segments, and beyond what we would typically assume for an overlay. An overlay will have reflective cracking coming through on short notice or short time frame, and it'll be a short lifespan in that overlay. So, lastly, on the surface improvements, the curb and gutter, we have curb and gutter on 11th, 15th, and Randolph. Generally, it's in fair condition, and again, useful life remaining. Moving on to the proposed improvements, we're recommending that these segments be rehabilitated with a full depth reclamation. This is a more robust rehab type project where we would recycle the existing pavement in place and blend it with the underlying aggregate surface. We'd regrade it, shape it, and construct a completely new pavement section. So a nice long-term solution. We won't get those same reflective cracking that we normally see on an overlay. This was not reviewed last month. We identified 4 non-lake properties that are unserved, don't have access to water and sewer on White Clover Beach. Most of the properties, all but those 4, are served by main lines under the road. Given we're going to have the street section, for all practical purposes, removed, we do recommend extending water and sewer services to those 4 properties at this time so that we could avoid having to get into the new road section for any future development of those parcels. Estimated cost for this improvement, the table that is for the street rehab, broken down by each major or each street section for a total just below $2 million. When we add in those additional water and sewer service extensions on White Clover Beach Road, we just take over the $2 million estimate for the total project. Financing will be through general city funds and special assessments. City's got a special assessment policy and standard practices and how that's implemented. So we are proposing to implement the policy in accordance with those past practices. So the goal of applying the assessment policy is to really drill down to the assessment rate. That's the total assessable amount divided by the total units. In this application, the street rehab is 50% accessible, 50% city share, and the water and sewer services are 100% accessible, so the property owner will pay 100% if those do get installed. So we apply those to that table, a few slides back, the 50% to the street, and then we divide it by the total units. And generally, this is a general rule of thumb, is the total units is the total length of the improvement times 2 to implicate both sides of the road, both properties. That's for the street, and for the services, it's simply just the number of services. So in order to get the actual accessible units for each property, streets are assessed by frontage. Rectangular interior lots, it's generally just the width of the parcel itself. If you've got a corner lot, there's some credit that is given for the longer side. You get 50% of the first 150 feet. So basically a 75-foot credit on those larger corner lots on the long side. The assessment for a corner lot is only for the side abutting the improvement. And then lastly, irregular shaped lots are assigned an average width. So that's how we calculate the frontage for each individual parcel. The water and sewer services are by each individual service that gets installed, gets assessed to that property. So when we carry that down, drill that down one more layer, we get our assessment rates for each of these 3 areas. White Clover Beach Road has an estimated assessment for the street improvements of approximately $27 a foot. 8th Street, it's a little wider than White Clover, has an estimated assessment at $37.50. And then lastly, 11th, 15th, and Randolph have estimated assessments at $50.67 a lineal foot. So on the right-hand side of that table, there's just some sample assessments, 50-foot lot, 100-foot lot, 150-foot lot, with corresponding estimated assessment amounts. Lastly, if the 4 parcels on White Clover Beach Road, those water and sewer services to extend those outside of the street section to the right-of-way is estimated at $8,500. So I normally show this slide before the last, but this one's so unique in our split here. Once we apply the assessment rate that we calculated using that formula, we come up with an assessable share of roughly 540,000 and a city share substantially higher than that at 1.4. We typically see these closer to the 50-50. And the reason we don't have, it's never a true 50-50 is there's often unaccessible footage. There's often properties that are city-owned properties, undevelopable wetlands. In this particular case, there's a railroad as well. So there's a lot of property on this project that isn't accessible. So the city share is certainly more significant than the accessible. I think that's all I've got for my presentation.
Okay, thank you, John. I'm going to allow time for any comments in a little bit, but first, I would ask if anyone has any questions about John's presentation. Any questions first? If not, I'll open it up for comments, and if you want to make a comment, I would ask that you come up to the podium and give us your name and address for our minutes, please. So if anyone wants to make a comment, now's the time. Mr. Lindberg, good evening.
Chris Lindberg with AFCO Petroleum. We are on 11th Street, and 15th Street is the other side of the 8th, which you're well aware of. We own that piece of property. We bought 17 acres. That's wetlands. For the most part, it's all wetlands. We can't use it. And that was my concern, is how that's accessible. We paid the city in 2019 10 grand for the piece of land, and we used less than an acre, probably, or an acre, when we built the retention pond, and that's why we did it. But there's no value to that piece of land. It's wetlands. We can't do anything with it. So that was my question. Is that part of the unaccessible property? Okay. And that was my concern, and that's why I wanted to come in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Usually they're not that easy, but that was good. Anyone else want to make a comment?
I just have a question.
It's our Tony Commissioner.
Yeah. So, David Meyer, my question, what is the timeline for, I know what you were talking, I got your timeline there, but what is, like, the Randolph Road's obviously going to be tore up. So what is the effects of that, what is the timeline of that?
John?
Does anybody know?
Yeah, so this is a rehab project, so the impacts to access are fairly streamlined to a 1-2 week time frame. We'll certainly coordinate with every property owner, business owner, well in advance to ensure that we've got accesses identified and we've got a game plan so that there's no interruption in their daily business.
Did that answer your question, Dave?
Yep, it did.
Any further questions or comments? Yes, sir.
I also just have a quick question.
Yeah.
Dave Upsall, White Clover Beach Road. Just two questions probably for John. Number one, at the end of the cul-de-sac, there's like a big frost boil that's developed over the last few years. And you can see the asphalt's kind of buckling there. Obviously, there's something's buried or something's wrong in that area. My second question was, on the west side of that road, kind of along near the cul-de-sac, there's a lot of trees right up against the road. And I'm just wondering if that's something that, when you're doing the project, if that will be removed so there can be a little more water drainage maybe on that west side. Or over time, those trees are obviously probably going to give some trouble with the road, I would think. So.
Go ahead, John.
No, appreciate you bringing those items to our attention, for sure. We'll look further into both of those items as we pull the final design together.
I just brought, just in case you want, just kind of where those are and where the problem spots are. So
Perfect, and I'll probably reach out to you.
perfect, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Any further questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Cheryl Lim, and I'm on White Clover Beach Road. And I'm wondering, are you going to be putting gutters in on that road? Is gutters going to be put in there?
No, this is strictly a pavement rehabilitation project, so we're simply reconstructing the existing bituminous section to its current width. We aren't planning significant regrading or drainage improvements. we'll have an opportunity to improve some, but at this point, the intent of this project was just pavement rehabilitation.
So when will that be done? When will, if we have to have, see, there's three homes there, and we have a lot of water problems. And I know it's Shipley's have it, and the Liams have it, and the Myshacks have it. Myshacks, they're constantly cleaning out their driveway because every time it rains, it's a puddle. And it's, you know, and it's not gonna get any better. It's getting worse. So,
It's a really good time of year for us to be looking at those existing drainage issues with the spring thaw coming. So again, I'll add this to our list of things that Jay brought to our attention to look at and to see if there's anything that we can do, and perhaps we can follow up further with staff if there's some easy solutions.
okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything further? Okay, if not, the public hearing is closed, and I would entertain a motion to a resolution authorizing the improvements and ordering the preparation of plans and specs.
Okay, Mayor, the Public Works Committee has reviewed this project, and we give consideration to a resolution authorizing improvements and ordering the preparation of plans and specifications for White Clover Beach Road from 8th Street, 15th Avenue North to minus 1400 East, 11th Avenue, 15th Avenue, Randolph Road, Roosevelt Avenue to Chris, and for all street improvements. The committee recommends, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to authorize improvements and ordering the preparation of plans and specs for the various roads that were cited by Alderman Zima. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
And that's good, because we needed 4/5 of our council to approve that tonight. We had all
I heard 4/5.
So we made it.
Garrett and Kyle, the co-admirals of the Water Carnival, were not able to make it here this evening, but we do have somebody filling in. Mandy is here. And so this is to give consideration to all the Water Carnival requests. Was that on your agenda?
Yes,
Ron?
yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, the motion is to give consideration approval of 3 temporary on-sale intoxicating liquor licenses, 7 3.2 malt liquor licenses, 2 parade commence facility and ground usage of the city park, the pavilion, the city beach, street closures, and extended curfews as per the J.C.'s request. The committee recommends, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve all of the various requests of the J.C.'s that conduct the fantastic Water Carnival. And it's a great event for the city. I don't know if you want to add anything, Mandy, or?
This is actually Kara. Kyle, one of the
That is Kyle,
co-admirals.
okay.
Garrett is
I really screwed that up.
on vacation, so I'm filling in.
Sorry, Kyle.
So we're just kind of keeping things the same layout, same schedule as the last couple years. We just announced the band last week, the week before, for Saturday night.
So yeah, the band announced for Saturday, let's see, Saturday the 22nd was Craig Morgan with an opening act also. But basically, yeah, we're just looking for various liquor license throughout the week, and also extended park curfew for a few nights for some events we have until midnight, 7/17 for Extreme Tippy Cup, midnight curfew for water fights, 1 a.m. for the bash on the beach, and 1 a.m. for the other bash on the beach night. And basically, some more barricades that we're going to be doing for the demo derby and the parade and some other events.
And that's all in your motion, Ron? That's all in the motion. Okay. We got a motion and a second to approve all those things. Is there further discussion?
Mayor,
Yeah, go ahead.
being a past admiral, I know there's 2 others in the room as well. Thanks for all you guys do. I mean, this is a huge thing for the community. Anything the city can do to help support, please let us know. So,
I don't know if you guys remember a couple of years ago, Craig Morgan was supposed to be here performing, but his son died in that boating accident, and he had to cancel last minute, so it's kind of hopefully a good sign that he's coming back, so.
Again, thank you, and we
Thank you.
appreciate all your work, and it's a great event, so thank you.
Thanks.
Did I call the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. And so with that, we'll move on to the Community Development Committee agenda.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item 5A is consideration to resolution approving a non-conforming use expansion permit to allow a 6-foot, 6-inch side yard setback instead of the 10 standard at 944 South Shore Drive. Larry, anything to add?
I think that really covers it. He has an existing garage that's got a 6-foot, 6-inch side yard setback. He's expanding the garage, and he would be going to then the larger garage still with the 6-foot, 6-inch side yard setback.
Sounds good. CDC discussed this last night. We were in unanimous favor of this. I think Planning Commission was as well. So I would move this.
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a resolution approving a non-conforming use expansion permit at 944 South Shore Drive. Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item 5B, consideration of the resolution approving the final plat for Lake Crest Estates, first supplement common interest community plat. This is at the old Lake Crest Resort on Highway 10. They're adding 6 garages up there, I believe, Larry, and this is kind of the first step.
Yes.
This was discussed last night at CDC with unanimous approval as well as Planning Commission, and I so move.
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded, adopting a resolution approving the final plat of Lake Crest Estates first supplement common interest community plat. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anything else, Pat?
That is all, Your Honor.
We'll move to the Public Works Committee, Chairman Jim.
Okay, the first item A is for discussion regarding boat parking overnight on the city beach. As you know, last year we had our a new policy, and we had the first year of it last year, and it seemed to work out well. What we were having is too many people leaving their boats, on the shoreline all night, and we've got a policy that from 2 to 5:30, all those boats have to be moved. We did have a request from the American Legion Campground if they could have some spots for their pontoons, but we thought to be fairness to everybody would like to have their pontoons left overnight down there if they could, but we just said we've got a policy and everybody's going to have to run to the accordingly. We're going to try it one more year, and we'll see what the results are after having 2 years. So we did give out some tickets last year for people that didn't obey the laws. We gave warnings first, but then we gave tickets, but it seemed to work out well with the policy that we had. Moving on to item B, a discussion regarding accepting the lake weeds at the compost site. We're working out with that right now. The staff is going to get some more information. As you know, Miller Company is going to go around and pick up the beaches on Detroit lakes and so forth. And they've got most of the people signed up. There's a few people that didn't sign up. So the question is, where do we want to put the lake weeds at this time? And we're trying to see if we can work out something with the county, because I believe they have a spot where they put lake weeds and maybe use their site, but we're going to have to get back on that after checking that out a little further. Next item is C, is the consideration to resolution authorizing the preliminary engineering report for the Southwood Shores Estate. It's a 7-lot plot. John, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. It's our
7C.
It's our understanding that the developer is moving forward with platting 7 residential lots adjacent to South Shore. This resolution authorizes us to proceed with evaluating the water and sewer service needs for these parcels. We'll have to get the water and sewer from underneath South Shore Drive, so there's some restoration that does need to be thought through. So we're recommending approval of this resolution to proceed with that report.
Okay, the committee reviewed this, and I so move that we approve it.
Second. Also, Ron, we want to make the motion to include a contingency for the developer to enter into a development.
That's been a signed agreement for the 7-lot plot that goes along with that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution authorizing a preliminary engineering report for Southwood Shores Estate. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next item is D, consideration resolution approving the plans and specifications, ordering advertising bids for the Campbell Avenue, Linden Lane Street, and stormwater, sanitary sewer, and water main improvements. This is projects that have been planned for many years. We're finally That's one of the oldest street projects that 57 years back there, some of those roads there, so we're getting it finally done. So the committee recommends, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution approving the plans and specifications and ordering advertisement for bids for the Campbell Avenue and Linden Lane Street stormwater sanitary sewer and water main improvements. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries.
Okay, next item is D, consideration to resolution approving plans and specifications already advertised for bids for the Summit Avenue Street and utility project. This is a part of Summit by the DLCC that goes out to Highway 10. We're going to be doing some work there on the width of that street, just getting them, so it's a lot safer for people going to the new museum in the DLCC. And the committee recommends, and I so move.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution approving plans and specifications and ordering advertisement for bids for the Summit Avenue Street and utility project. Discussion?
One question on this, Mayor.
Go ahead, Matt.
Mr. Olson, I don't know if you know this, but do you know the timing of that? On the Summit, I know, probably know more once we go out for bids.
Yeah, I'm not 100% certain on the timing of this project. I do know that we're trying to coordinate it so that it starts following the museum parking lot construction, so that we have a secondary third access into that facility during the project. So as we know more, once we get the bids and get a contractor selected, we'll certainly pass that information on as to when they're going to start.
Okay, the only reason I asked Mayor is that it's part of the JC's parade route, and they were just here, so just to keep them in the loop.
Further questions or discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries.
Okay, we have item F, we had a young man that came in and talked to us from Google Rental about hosting a cornhole tournament. Along with that, they wanted to bring in some RVs on the street and so forth. And we told them that we really don't allow businesses bringing RVs on the streets with large signs. But we certainly would encourage you to continue having your cornhole tournament. So he's going to go back and talk to the owners and see if they still want to go ahead and do that tournament. So there's no action on that item.
Anything further, Ron?
None, Your Honor.
Okay. We have the Finance Committee, Chairman Josephson.
Item 7A is consideration to a resolution implementing and allowing expenditures for an employee recognition program. Kelsey, you want to give us a synopsis of that?
Mayor and Council, just real quick on the policy. So it's something that has been talked about for a while. Basically implements an employee recognition program, provides basically a way to recognize 5-year milestones of existing employees. It also standardizes some of our policies about recognition of employees when they leave service and city council members and advisory board members when they leave service. It also includes some information about when we provide any type of city-paid meals and refreshments.
Finance Committee reviewed this, had quite a bit of discussion, recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution implementing and allowing expenditures in an employee recognition program. Discussion?
I'd just like to make a comment. I'm okay with the recognition part of it, but I've always thought that the city of Trail Lakes, we've got a lot of employees working in a lot of departments, and many corporations have reward programs for employees that can save their business some money. And I'm just thinking that if we came up with an employee that saved us $100,000 or whatever, there should be reward for that person. And I'm just wondering if we could maybe look in to have a program such as that, because we've got a lot of different figures in the city operations, and if somebody's got an idea that could save us a lot of money, we should certainly look into it and also reward this person that comes up with an idea. I know that's not for the night, but I would like to see us do something in the future. Might maybe have somebody's got some great ideas that we could use.
And we can certainly do that.
If I may, Mayor and Council, item 1D does provide some sort of special recognition awards for employees who demonstrate service above and beyond the normal course of public service. So we don't specifically state what that would be, but there's some latitude there for the council if we want to do that in the future.
I guess I'm just thinking that we could get that out to the employees that we do have a reward program, and I don't know, I think if we gave people what that reward would be, it might be enough to initiate these people to come forward more than just having something on the books that we don't use. So I'm just saying if we can kind of sell this, that if somebody's got a good idea out there, it can save us a lot of money, we should be trying to encourage it.
Okay. For now, we have a motion to second, and is there further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Dan, before you continue, can I just interrupt quickly? Is there anyone else that has something that they want to move up in the agenda before we go on? I think we've covered. Go ahead, Dan.
All right. Item B is consideration to a resolution implementing and allowing expenditures for a wellness program. Kelsey.
Mayor and council, again, basically, we do have an employee wellness program that we've had in the past. This is basically expanding it to allow a fitness reimbursement credit for employees who have a membership at the Detroit Lakes Community Center, and then also provides for a minimum of 10 check-ins per month, would be eligible for a $30 reimbursement through payroll. This is a similar program has already been instituted through for law enforcement through our labor agreements. This would expand it to all city employees.
Finance Committee reviewed this afternoon, recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution implementing and allowing expenditures for a wellness program. Discussion?
Are there other cities that have implemented similar programs? Is there good evidence that there's good utilization and that it's helping the overall health of the employees as well as the expenses such as health care expenses, preventative, those types of things?
Go ahead, Kelsey.
Mayor and council, I've talked to a few other cities who have something similar. They weren't able to provide any type of empirical evidence that shows improvements. Actually, my response was pretty widespread of how much it's utilized. Some saw very little usage, some saw quite a bit of usage, so I'm not sure what the outcome will be with our program.
So my only request would be that, over the next couple of years as this program is used, maybe report back to the council how it's going so we can review it and see if it still makes sense for the city to do that, if it's helping employees and helping our expenses.
We can do that, Sean. Good point.
Do we know how many people are using it from the police department? Do we have a good percentage there?
It was just implemented this year, so
Okay.
So far.
nothing so far, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Further comments or questions? We need to vote, right? There's a motion, a second on the table. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So it gets to be more than 2 minutes between things.
I'll try to keep my comments short.
Item C. All right, consideration to approving the changes to the personnel policy. Again, I'll call on Kelsey to give us an update on these.
Mayor and council, again, usually whenever we are going through our contract negotiations, we also do a deep dive through our personnel policy. We did that again, and there's a few updates to make. Section 10 is clean up some of the language of our probationary period. Section 11, under compensation and benefits, we made an adjustment to the travel reimbursement section. The main thing to take away there is on the 4th paragraph where we talk about maximum reimbursement for meals. We used to put a dollar amount, a fixed dollar amount in there. Problem is those dollar amounts change every year, so what we're doing now is just referencing the U.S. General Service Administration, their chart. Then that basically references based upon where your training or travel is to, it provides what that maximum should be based upon the geographic location. Section 13, amending the vacation section, that's mainly due to changing the way we accrue vacation. Instead of providing an annual deposit of vacation once a year on January 1st, we've gone to a per pay period accrual. So to do that, we changed basically the amount section subdivision 1 and the carryover section subdivision 4. Section 14, sick leave, that's similar, changing the way we do the accrual. We used to do 8 hours, we would dump in 8 hours once a month. Now we're going to a per pay period accrual, so it changes the personnel policy. And then section 22, the change to holidays is adding Juneteenth, which is a new state holiday effective 8/1 of 2023. So that means it will not be recognized in 2023, but it'll be recognized in 2024.
After quite a bit of discussion at the Finance Committee, again on this topic, it was unanimous that we would recommend approval for the consideration of approving the policies for the personnel policies. And I so move.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the changes to the personnel policy. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item D is consideration to approving a policy regarding GASP and leases, and I will have Heidi explain what that stuff is.
Oh, GASB, good old GASB. So GASB is the Government Accounting Standards Board, and that is what I have to basically abide by when I'm doing the accounting for the city. And they have come up with a new statement this year that the city has to abide by in our 2022 audit. And so we're implementing that this year. In that statement, it's requiring us to look at all of our leases, whether the city is the lessor or the lessee, and requiring us to uniformly treat those the same way, whether they are capitalized or not. And so what the item in your packet is a policy regarding the capitalization threshold of those leases. And so this policy sets that threshold at $10,000. And so what this will do is make my life a whole lot easier. I won't have to worry about a whole bunch of smaller leases that the city has that aren't material to our financial statements and don't make a huge difference to our financial statements, but would require me to do a whole lot of extra work and our auditors to do a whole lot of extra work. So for instance, we have about 60 hangar leases that are under this materiality threshold. They're annual basis, so they wouldn't be something that would be recognized once we approve this policy. So our auditors suggested that we approve this to again simplify implementing this new GASB government accounting standard.
So after that explanation, the Finance Committee reviewed this afternoon, recommends approval, and I so move.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the policy regarding the GASB and leases. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item E is consideration to a resolution discontinuing the local option sales tax as of June 30th, 2023. Heidi, you want to provide this exciting news?
Sure. So as of June 30th, 2023, we're projecting that the city will have collected all of the funds needed to pay back the entire police department facility, the bonds, and the financing costs related to that project. And so we are required to discontinue that local option sales tax at that point because we have collected sufficient revenues to pay off that project, which is what it was authorized for in the first place. In order to discontinue the tax, we have to give the Department of Revenue 90 days notice because they have to give businesses 60 days notice to be able to discontinue that tax on their systems and make sure that they're reporting properly. So 30 days from June 30th, looking backwards, is the end of this month. So that's why we have it on your agenda this evening to approve the resolution as of June 30th, or approve the resolution tonight discontinuing the local option sales tax as of June 30th.
So just to add on to what Heidi said, we had originally projected this was going to last 10 years. It's actually paid off in 45 months. Also, the interest, what did you calculate? We saved in interest.
Gosh, I had to go and close my spreadsheet. It was about
$175,000?
Yeah, it was about 168,000, I believe it was.
So it's really been a good way to finance a project like we did. So with that, Dan?
All right. Yep, Finance Committee reviewed this afternoon, recommends approval, and I so move.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution discontinuing the local option sales tax as of June 30th, 2023. Discussion?
I'd just like to make one point. We were very fortunate to have this local option sales tax. First of all, we were able to pay it off much sooner than any of us ever guessed it would be paid off. We avoided paying high interest costs, but if we didn't have this source to pay for that new police department, how would we be able to afford to have that, and it would come out of people's property taxes. So this seemed to be a pretty painless way to do it and get buildings that we needed that have been worn out in town for many years, and I'm glad we have that. And I hope that we have other projects that'll come out that we need and use this option to get these projects done. And like I said, it avoids having it being put on people's property taxes.
Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Item F is consideration to a resolution approving an amendment to the Independent Senior Housing Revenue Refunding Note, Series 2013, and authorizing the execution and delivery of a allonge to the note. That's French for additional piece of paper, I believe. Heidi, you want to talk about this one?
Sure. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. What this does is, so the 2013 note that is referred to in this agenda item is some conduit debt that the city issued using our tax exempt status for the Ecumen housing project, and that was done in 2013. And back then, that note or that funding to pay back that was used. The interest rate used to calculate that was the LIBOR rate, the London Interbank Offered Rate. That is being phased out, and so now there's a new formula that has to be assigned to these bonds in order to calculate the interest rate. And so that is what we're doing this evening, is assigning this new mechanism to calculate the interest on this debt. The new formula is based on the 10 and 3-year Federal Home Loan Bank rates as published by the FHLB out of Des Moines, and the City Council must pass the resolution in order to make this change, since it is conduit debt that is in the city's name. However, again, this is debt that the city is not responsible for.
So the Finance Committee reviewed this afternoon, recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution approving amendment to the Independent Senior Housing Revenue Funding Note. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Two other items, right, Dan?
Yep, so we've got item 7K, which is authorizing the city to enter into a grant agreement for the airport. Kelsey, you want to talk through this one?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, first action item is a resolution and grant agreement that you should have all received a paper copy of. This is a grant agreement for the airport fueling station. This is a state-only grant, so it's a 70-30 split, with the state paying $938,448.35 and the local match being $402,192.15.
So with that, I would move that we enter into a grant agreement with the state for the fueling station. Finance Committee reviewed this, recommends approval, and I so move.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to authorize the execution of the grant agreement with Minnesota Department of Transportation for the fueling station at the airport. Discussion?
I've got a question in regards to the fueling station. I know we sell a lot of gas and so forth, but where do the profits from that gas that we sell, does that come back to the city so we can help pay some of our bills on this, or what happens on it?
Good question, Mayor and Council. The current airport management agreement has the airport manager basically takes the profits off of the fuel sales. They pay for the wholesale fuel, they manage the fuel system, and then they take the proceeds off the fuel system. The change to that is with the new fuel system, we have added a flowage fee to help cover our cost of basically the capital cost of the fuel system. So we're going to charge, I think it's a 35-cent per gallon flowage fee. So now the airport will see some proceeds back on every gallon of fuel sold out there, once the new fuel system is installed.
Further discussion?
Finally.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item 7L is about the local share for the airport parking lot and fueling station. Kelsey?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, so now I want to talk a little bit about how that local share is being paid for on the fueling station. So again, I handed out a memo. There's a memo that's dated today, and there's also a memo that's dated from last year that the City Council had acted on. Last April, we talked about how to fund the local portion for the fueling station project and also the airport parking lot project. Basically, the parking lot, which is in bad shape today, will end up getting basically tore up to put the new fueling system in. So last April, we contemplated, a local share of somewhere between $247,000 to $411,000 based upon engineer estimates. So today, we now know based upon our actual as-bid cost and also what the actual grant agreements are, we know what that local share is actually going to end up being. So if you look at my new memo, which would be the front page, the parking lot project came in actually under original estimates. So we're looking at a local share of $10,810.65 for the parking lot project. And again, that's being paid for through a federal grant and state grant. And then there's the state grant, which I just covered, with the local share of the $402,192. The bad news is on that project is it came in quite a bit higher than what our original engineer estimates were last April, at $1.3 million. The good news is that MnDOT stepped up and agreed to pay the full, their full 70% of eligible cost on it. But that still puts us at a local cost participation of $413,002.80. So that's a little bit higher than what was authorized by the City Council and County Board in April of last year. So what the request is from the City Council is to approve half of that local share, so it's $206,501.40. And then I would make the same request ultimately to the County Board to pay the other half. Part of the reasoning for this last year that we talked about is the runway taxiway project. Our local pledge, both by the city and the county, were $1 million each for a $2 million local share. We haven't exhausted that $2 million pledge yet. Right now, the runway taxiway project is probably going to be about a $1.2 million local share. So that was the rationale for coming back to the city and county to help with the local share.
So the Finance Committee reviewed this afternoon, recommends the city's share, to authorize the city's share of $206,501.40, and I so move.
Motion been made and seconded to authorize the payment of the city's share of the new fueling station. Discussion?
Where do we get our $200,000? That comes from the general fund or?
Mayor and Council, so the $1 million pledge, we never bonded for it. We've just been doing an internal transfer, and then we've been paying that back to ourselves through as a levy appropriation we're doing each year. So basically, we'll continue to just do another internal transfer, and we'll continue to pay ourselves back with that tax levy.
The question I've always had on this, on the airport for many, many years, we've got a great airport, we've got all these, talk about all these planes coming in and leaving and everything, but at the end of the day, the county makes the money, we make the money. Where's the money going that we're making off this airport? And I can never understand, we've got some of the lowest fees for airplane hangars, and I just can't believe that it's a break-even situation, because somebody's got to be making money out there, and it certainly isn't the taxpayer. I just feel we've got to look at a way that somehow there's got to be some increase in fees for these people that are flying these planes to help supplement some of the stuff that they're using. That's my feeling on it, but we keep improving, but we never seem to, we're electing to break even, that's about as close as we get.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, if you wanted me to answer that or not. Part of it being a general aviation airport, we can't charge for arrivals and departures. So when planes fly in and leave, there isn't any fee for that. Really, the only revenue that you're generating is off of fuel sales, as we mentioned, and then off our hangars. So we do collect hangar rents. That's maintained in the airport fund. Those proceeds then go back towards airport operations. Then part of being a general aviation airport, that's why we receive these state grants and federal grants to help. We also get some maintenance aid from the state. So we get some operating proceeds from the state, and then basically these capital grants from the federal and state is kind of the trade-off for having a general aviation airport.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Anything else, Dan?
Yeah, nothing else.
Okay. We'll go to the Public Safety Committee. Chair Spry.
Excuse me, the only item we have on the agenda tonight is introduction of our fire chief, and we've done that earlier, so I just want to welcome you to the community and to this role, and thank Chief Swanson for all the good work that he has done, and left you in a really good place to move forward.
So Ryan, are you staying on the department?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll be at number 2.
All right, thanks for all your good work. We'll move on now to the Liquor Gambling Control, and Chairman Dahlman is not here this evening, so I will appoint Madam Chair Buchholz to take over.
Thank you, Mayor. In consideration of the request from the Downtown Alive to sponsor the Downtown Floral Baskets for 2023, the committee discussed, and the recommendation is a donation of $4,000, and I so move.
Motion's been made and seconded to donate $4,000 to the Downtown Alive project. And of course, Jackie, that's for all the beautiful flower pots, and people really comment on those very positively. So, further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
And item 9B, in consideration to accept the bids for the new LED lighting at the liquor store and award the contract to Clover Electric. After discussion from the committee, we recommend approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the low bid for new LED lighting at the liquor store. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I believe that's it for that agenda. Alderman Stearns, is there anything from the public utilities we need to bring to the council?
No, there are no things, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Let's see, we're down to some mayor items. Proclaiming April 3rd, 2023 as Child Care Workforce Appreciation Day. I would like to recommend Jackie Buchholz be appointed to the West Central Initiative Economic Development Advisory Committee. I would ask for a motion.
I would make a motion that we do that.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, appointing Jackie to the West Central Initiative Economic Development Authority Advisory Committee. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. I don't have recommendations for C and D. I would be open if anybody's got any suggestions for those positions to the Becker County Child Care Foundation Committee and also to the Food Pantry Board. And also to the Minnesota Flyers Gymnastics Board. I do have a couple of candidates for the Tourism Bureau that I'll bring a name to you in the April meeting. I would like to also appoint Jackie Buchholz to the Park Board to fill the seat of Beth Friday, who's filled out her maximum terms, and I would entertain a motion.
I would make a motion second on that.
Motion's been made and seconded to appoint Jackie Buchholz to the Park Board. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. You're going to be busy. It's all right, right? I would like to recommend the appointment of Nate Hunter to the Development Authority to fulfill the seat of resigned member John Hanson. And I would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Motion been made and seconded to appoint Nate Hunter to the Development Authority. Discussion. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Are there any other items that the city administrator has or city staff that needs to come before the council?
It's not an action item, just a reminder, we have the open house on the pavilion project at Thursday from 4 to 6 over at the Holmes Ballroom. And then Friday, we have the Economic Development Summit, I think 8:30 to 11:30 at the museum.
Okay. Thank you, Kelsey. The Becker County Assessor has notified the city that the board of review for the 2023 assessments will be held on April 25th at 9:30 here at the courthouse. And I believe it's myself, Alderman Zeman, Alderman Wilkie. Who else is on that? Alderman Josephson. So everybody can be there, that you know of. Okay. The joint 2023 joint governance meeting dates are printed on the agenda. And also the city council meeting dates are on the agenda, and they'll all be right here at the courthouse. Okay, we're not going to be ready this year with our city hall project, correct?
Negative.
How's that going, by the way?
Demo, pretty much the floors are all completely cleared out. They're a little bit behind. I think they want to start punching some of the exterior holes into the building, but the weather hasn't really cooperated for that. They're still doing some of the sewer pipe replacement stuff in the basement, so that requires breaking out the concrete and placing the pipe and patching that all in. So I'm not saying they're behind, but we're not still deconstructing, not constructing.
All right, thank you. Anything else that anyone has for the good of the order?
I would like to give a lot of recognition to Ryan Swanson because the last few years have been very difficult. We've had a hard time getting volunteers like we should. At one point, I think we're down to 22. We need to be at 30. But him and the group that's stuck with them continue doing the job they do. They're there 7 days a week for us. And we're lucky that we had such a strong volunteer group. But at the same time now, it is time for us to move on with a brand new full-time, first ever fire chief. And it's going to be a good combination. We've got a full fire trucks over there to do anything that you need for a small town. We're a 10,000 town with a 34,000 population county, but you think we're a 50 or 100,000 because we've got that good of a fire department. We've got people that know what they're doing, and we should feel lucky that we've got them. And the only thing is that I hope that the new fire chief will continue having the largest float in the Water Carnival Parade. It is the main attraction, my friend. And you'll find out about that, but I've been telling that to Ryan for years. I think you finally believe me. But thanks to Ryan and his entire crew for the great job that they've done over it. We don't take it for granted.
All right, Ron. Good words, Ron. Thank you. The business of this council has come to a conclusion and the meeting's adjourned.